So today we are going to discuss. Are you seeing the presentation version or are you seeing the? Second. So today we'll talk about tools, then certification, BA groups. So let me start with uh, the slide on tools. Now let me know, folks, if you are aware of any of these tools. Have you come across any of these tools? See, for requirement management, mostly you will start using Jira. So a lot of the teams use Jira, which is an Atlassian product. So Atlassian is the company which owns Jira, and they do a pretty good job of that. So Jira offers I think 2 weeks, in 2 weeks trial. So you can try out Jira. It will have limited functionality. What you'll not be able to do is basically, 1 second. Let me just log in and show you. So this is basically used for your user story writing, etc. So if you see this, there is a certain flow, right? So you will see that we can actually use, let me get to one of the stories. This is a story I had created. So I think in the last class, when we did requirements management, we checked this out. So you can create backlogs, you can create roadmap, you can ensure there's a board. You can watch how many are actually to do, how many are in progress and done. Okay, so you can also integrate your code and actually link it to which are all the stories for which you are writing that code. So then you'll also have dashboards where you can, as a business analyst or as a project manager, create different dashboards to ensure you're able to progress. So like I told you, it's a 14-day trial. All right. So one interesting thing is, a lot of customization is possible. That is when you create a Jira ticket and let's say a developer is working on it. After developer, it should be routed to a BA or to somebody else, or should it be routed to a tester? And after tester, should it go to BA? So this kind of routing, etc., is a admin, functionality, which is not available in the free version. See, there is something called edit workflow. Okay, this is pretty much what you can do. All right. So you can actually bring in a lot more customization. If you see what this, so if you see what's happening here is we are saying you create a Jira ticket, then it goes to do, and then it becomes progress and done. So you can add multiple stages in between this before it goes to done, or you could add stages between to do and in progress. How is this possible? This is basically by uh, getting the admin functionality to change the workflow. Then you can also use admin functionality to also discuss which, also that you can change the views and access to certain people. You want to give access to customers, etc. So that is something also that we can do through this feature. Okay, so the other tool I explained to you was from the requirements point of view, it was the other one was Rally. I hope you're able to see my screen, right? Where I'm showing this slide.
Yeah, Prashant.
Okay. So requirement management. So, okay. So Jira we looked at. Then Rally is almost the same. Rally again, I think needs installation and then on a local and then use it. Rally software also is pretty much the same. The other popular one is TFS, which is Azure DevOps. If you remember, we also did it's a Microsoft product. TFS also is having the same workflow like Jira, except that the way look and feel is slightly different. JAMA and IB Rational Rose, these days you hardly hear because earlier this was used during the waterfall, processes where JAMA and the IBM, uh, products were really popular at that time. And with the, coming of age of Agile, Scrum and all these things, the tools have changed to Jira, TFS and Rally. Okay, so mostly these are the thriving requirement management softwares. So then you have process mapping. We have discussed process mapping in the past. Some of the good ones are basically MS Visio and Lucid Charts. So these two really are very popular. MS Visio for that matter, because it's a Microsoft product. It is really popular. The other one is Lucid Chart. So Lucid Chart also gives you the same experience as MS Visio. Miro is for collaboration purpose. So Miro can also be used for let's say you have a team of 7-8 people, right? And you want to discuss together and put some ideas together. That's a great collaboration tool. Now if you're a BA working remotely, this tool is the best tool you can use for any sort of brainstorming and things like that. Okay, so let me quickly log in. I'll show you. See, I have a SSO, basically an account. I'll create a new board. Now see, it says create a shared board. Now I can create retrospective. I can do a retro. I can do a quick retro. I can do brain writing. I can do basically brainstorming. Okay, you can do also quick meetings. You can do. See then how you can convert it into mind maps. Then do customer journey maps also. Then you can get into agile workflows, user story mapping. If you remember, we spoke about user story mapping. How you pick a big feature and then break it down into smaller features. First, you want to understand what are the goals of the user and so on. So this is a great tool if you want to, collaborate. So there are also wireframing, etc. that is available. So this is like a great tool to have. For example, now this is a sticky note. I will pull one here and add idea. Now I can actually share this with a lot of you within the team. I can give you access and you can also simultaneously keep writing something. As I'm doing it, you can also parallelly do it on the same place. And then you will see you'll have so many ideas you discuss out, and then some of it you actually can reject it, saying that, okay, this idea is okay, this idea we can remove and so on. So great tool for brainstorming purpose. Everybody has access and you can try out different templates. So this is a very good tool to have and to use it. Okay. Coming back to Creately, Draw IOC, this is a bit of a stretch. Again, see, as business analyst, I would recommend look at top 3 tools. Okay, don't try to break your head on other ones. It's great to dirty your hands. In the beginning of my career, I used to get a little unsettled with all the different jargons and tools that some of my fellow PAs or teammates would speak about. Hey, I don't know this tool. I don't know how to do this. But frankly, if you look at top 2 or 3 tools and if you can use that effectively, I think that's more than enough. So somebody talks to you about a new tool, and if it's having almost the same feature as your existing tools, I don't know. Maybe it's worth exploring, but it's not like you have to become an expert in the tool. Get a sense of different tools that's available in the market, feel comfortable, but 1 or 2 tools you got to be an expert. At least one tool for wireframing, one tool for process mapping, one tool for Jira, user research, and so on. Okay, so we looked and pencil is something you can use straight away. So sorry, we have not yet come to wireframing. So Visio, Lucid Charts, best bet. Visio, I think I showed you. So Visio is something like this. It's a Microsoft product. There will be different shapes which you can use. It's highly sophisticated tool. So this is great for process mapping. If your company can allow you to use this, nothing like it. I think this is one of the key skills for a business analyst. If you can do process mapping, it's amazing. Next is wireframing. Wireframing, see, you can look at Pencil. I think I already have Pencil. What I did was I downloaded that. So I have one in the local. So Pencil is something you can use anytime. There's no license, etc. on this. I think there may be something coming. Yeah, so you can use it without any issue. Let me check if it has a trial. Yes. Doesn't look like it comes with a trial version, so I think we are good. We can use it extensively. That's what I mean. Then Balsamic is the best. Balsamic is the best wireframing tool you can use at this point, because it's been there for a long time. The latest ones you should also look at is Figma. Figma was highly appreciated when I was doing some of the courses also. Some of the UI UX teams also suggested to use Figma. So let's look quickly at Figma. Figma is almost like Balsamic. It's a free this thing, so you can use it, I think, for 2 weeks or so. FIGMA. So this is also great. So this is highly recommended by some of the well-known UI UX folks. Even my teacher also at one point had have recommended it. So okay, that's that. Gliffy, you see, I found UI Zard also is good. It's almost like, sounds like Wizard. Wizard is also good. Gliffy is also good. But 1 or 2 tools like Balsamic and Figma are really top wireframing tools at this point. Pencil is almost having the same kind of features. It may miss out on a couple of features, but it's still good to use this. Okay, so then let me talk to you about user research empathy map. So empathy map, right? I'm sure you folks are aware. So when do you use an empathy map? When you want to Empathy map is again also used in product management. So empathy map is not a tool as such. It is basically a template which you will use. Let me show it to you this way. Okay. If you see here, we're talking about whom are we empathizing with. So who is the person? Let's say your last time, if you remember for design thinking, we looked at Cinderella. Similarly, if you have some customer or customer groups, let's say call center or customer service teams, you will say whom are we empathizing with? It will be customer service agent. So the entire group will be represented by one person. It is a fictitious person or a persona created who will represent the pains, gains, motivations, etc. of that particular group. Okay, so it's like saying whom are we empathizing with? We are empathizing with software engineers. What is the situation they are in? Currently, they are working from home, and what is the role in that situation? They have to log in and have to stretch. So there is no difference between working in office versus working at home. Only thing is that the amount of work has actually gone up. So what do they need to do? They need to switch off. They need to. So it's here. It says what do they need to do differently, etc. So what it's actually doing is, if you've seen earlier, we did think, feel, hear, do. So this is a little more extensive, which helps you understand in and out how to understand the customer. So what do they need to do? All their very strategic tasks that they need to do. What do they see? Literally, what do they see in their environment? What do they say? What do they literally say while encountering that situation? What do they do? What do they do is different from what do they need to do. Is you need to ensure you are having overall wellness. But what do you do? I jog every day. I eat healthy. I drink a lot of water. So this is operational doing. This is strategic doing. What do they hear is literally what do they hear. So this way, and then we are talking about pains. What are their fears, frustrations, and anxieties? Are their pains? What are their gains? What are their wants, needs, hopes, and dreams? So you see, in a way, we are completely capturing everything or essence about the customer group. So this is a great tool while you're doing user research. Talking to 10 people from customer service team and then coming up with this empathy map and maybe calling that, Ram, Sham, or Sita, or whatever, and then giving it a name, right? So it's how you actually personify it. So you create this for a persona. I think that's one easy way to go about identifying one user group, working and talking to the user group, then creating their expectations. What are their frustrations, etc. This empathy map is very difficult because it takes a lot of time. Okay, again, coming back, then we'll talk about persona. What is persona, right? So persona again. Like I told you, it's basically a representation of the user group. So persona is what? So persona is basically this. It's basically talking end to end about the customer. Now, Jill Anderson may represent the larger group of sales or leadership teams which travel a lot and are looking to book their travel to different locations. So therefore, this persona is a representation of what do they do, what are their frustrations, what are their motivations. It also brings out their personality. Personality is important because it helps you understand how they think, what motivates them, how do they behave. And here, what are the brands that they associate with? If you're somebody who is very brand conscious, somebody who's, focused on, how you look or appear in front of people, and Apple is a brand you may associate with, or some really exclusive brands. So those are also very helpful to have if it's a B2C environment. But mostly because BAs are working in a technical environment, sometimes you work directly where customers are using your product, or sometimes it is internal customers. Whatever is the case, if you are creating a product which can be used by multiple customers, when I say multiple customers, let's say you sold it to Big Bazaar, then you are also selling it to Target, then you're selling the same retail application or product to Walmart. So you see, these are all different customers having roughly the same persona. For example, if I'm talking about a purchase manager persona, you need to understand what do typically purchase managers do. What do they want? What are their frustrations? What are their motivations? What are their personalities like? They're highly focused on money. They are focused and highly good at negotiation. They are able to plan better and things like that. What are their motivations, frustrations, and goals? So persona is basically representation of the user group. We then, once you create this, you can do, after this, you can create an empathy map for this persona, or create the empathy map by interviewing 15 to 30 people. Okay, it could be even more, depending. You can do surveys, you create survey form and launch it, collect feedback, or just talk to people, then create an empathy map, then create a persona, out of the empathy map may come out 3 or 4 different personas. Empathy map is like, talking to hundreds of people. And then from empathy map, you figure out, there are 2-3 different, groups, different aspirations. So let's create different personas. That is also possible. So I'm making you aware of these terminologies. So once you start using it, you'll feel comfortable. These are readily available. So editable empathy map, editable personas are available on the internet. User journey. What is a user journey, right? So let me user journey. So if you look at this, right? So user journey is a day in the life of the user, basically, or life of the user while encountering that problem. In our case, it's mostly, why should we worry about user journey? Is when you're creating a product, let's say you want to create the next Swiggy or next Uber, you want to understand how the users behave while booking the cab or while ordering food. And you'll try to understand what are the gaps in the existing process or user journey. That's when you can create a next product which is able to fill that gap. In this, so you can create a user journey for the entire day or an average day while performing a specific task. You'll see here on the top end of the y-axis is positive experience, below is negative experience. If I'm ordering dinner, okay, I'm coming home after a long work day. I'm still positive that I'm very tired. I need to eat food and then sleep. I realize that there's no food at home is very frustrating for me. Therefore, it is a bad negative experience. Then as a positive experience, you will say, go online to research restaurants. You're hoping you will find something nice. And then you figure that it's time finding out who delivers and what's on the menu is actually taking time while I'm actually getting hungry. So spending too much time on, figuring out what to order also is a negative experience. Then I call the restaurant, which is neither positive nor negative, because at this point, I don't know what is going to happen. They learn that the customer learns they only take cash, which is frustrating because he wants to pay online or she wants to pay online. It's not happening. So it's very frustrating experience. Then the user calls another restaurant. So you see, these are all basically no, they're hoping that it will turn out positive. If it turns out negative, they get frustrated. The food arrives and then he eats or she eats. So you see, this is a user journey where you need to understand all the negative experiences. You can have multiple such touch points, and all the negative ones are which you need to address, just like we did in the Cinderella story for design thinking purpose. So this is a great way to represent a user journey. Let's say they are working on ordering process or purchasing process or something else. So you can create a user journey only for that process, not for the entire day. So that is also possible. It will help you understand what are the issues with the existing flow. Two by two prioritization. Of course, we did 2x2 prioritization earlier. I will quickly touch upon it. So 2x2 you can do for problem prioritization as well as solution prioritization. If it's a problem prioritization, on the y-axis, you're going to say happen more frequently, happen less frequently. Then you say less painful, more painful. So the right-hand quadrant is what you will focus on to say these are problems which occur, which are very painful and occur very frequently. And therefore, you need to address this problem. Using a Miro, like I told you, the Miro tool to do this activity is an awesome way to collaborate online. Similarly, do this for solution prioritization. You know, solution prioritization is high user impact, low user impact, high effort, low effort. So something that is easy to build and has a higher business impact is something you will want to focus on. Okay, immediately. So that's a way to prioritize. You can use Miro, like I told you, for all these sorts of activities. SWOT analysis again is very old. Okay, so SWOT analysis is mostly used for any sort of industry analysis, etc. Or kind of assessing a tool. Let's say wireframing tools, you are trying to do a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is very basic. Another tool you can try out if you are interested in product management is aha.com. I'm deliberately not getting too much into product management fundamentals because as a business analyst, the goals are something different. But there's a AHA software where you can learn how to build better roadmaps, persona, etc. Everything is there. So if you're somebody who wants to try that out, aha.com is, I think they also offer a trial version. Pull that up. AHA product. Let's say AHA product management. Okay, this is the one. AHA, I think it's an exclamation is there. AHA.io. AHA.io is the one which you need to use. So it has a trial. So here you can talk about strategy. I can create a vision. I can create personas. I can create goals. I can create initiatives, competitors. So this is what you need while creating a good product. Then you can look at releases. Releases basically tells you this quarter which feature I want to launch and so on. Idea generation, you can use empathy map sessions, different charts, etc. Then you have a user story map directly here. You have boards. Then you can create roadmaps, dashboards, etc. You can also create product strategies. You can also use these analytics tools basically for features, basically for analyzing the product success. Let me check. I don't know if I had created anything. Let me click on one of these. Looks like the trial version is. So it's a 30-day trial. This is something you can use. I will not get too much into this, but aha.io is something you should definitely try out if you're interested in, um, understanding business or product management concepts, especially if who's working for a product company or aspires to get into a product company. So that's a good tool to kind of work with. 1 second, I think. Yeah. So we discussed that. So prioritization, aha, it's not aha.com, sorry, it's aha.io. My bad. You'll end up somewhere else. So then we looked yesterday for dashboarding, Power BI, Tableau. Tableau is again license based, similar to Power BI with some more additional drag and drop features. It's the same way where you can load Excel, you can load connect to databases, create your own data set, etc. So Power BI, Tableau, definitely you should try out. Get your hands dirty. Excel, of course, you're going to try out and work on it day in and day out. Google reporting is again free. You can use this as well for doing some sort of practice. So Google reporting is also good. You can try that. Now coming back to certain support, let's say you belong to or working for a support team, like you're working for an L2 team or an L3 team which fixes issues. Salesforce CRM is one of the primary tools which are used for, is basically which is part of the L2 team. Now for Salesforce, there's something called as case management. Okay, case management is also called, sorry, service. Salesforce service management, and they have something called as sales. So this is two different things. So sales is basically how do I add customers? How do I create a customer account? How do I ensure I sell more to these customers? So a salesperson uses Salesforce CRM. Now under Salesforce CRM, there's also service management. If a customer raises an issue, how do you go about resolving it? Now as a sales as a service agent, once I create a ticket, that ticket needs to be assigned to some technical team. That technical team will work on this ticket and then respond back. Sometimes that particular task needs to be worked on by different teams, and therefore you can actually break it into subtasks. Managing all these workflow status, etc., is part of service management. So when you're dealing with L2, L3 processes, Salesforce CRM is very popular. L2 is nothing but somebody raising a ticket, a customer raising a ticket, and then that is coming to you. Now let's say you're managing an application and there will be support tickets. Support tickets, every time a customer wants a new feature, they may raise a ticket which may come as a change request. If they find a bug or some sort of malfunction in the application, they will raise a ticket that needs to be fixed by your team, an IT team which comprises of developers, testers, and business analyst also. A business analyst will focus on requirement-based tickets. If it's something to do with understanding requirement or a scope change, etc., all comes to the business analyst. So change management, let me show you. So if you are a business analyst in the L2, or even for that matter L3, how do you create a change request? You understand it's a scope change. I'm quickly opening the document. So you'll see, first of all, you'll have to write the project name. Project sponsor is important. Who is going to fund it? There's a project manager. There's a project manager ID. Who is it created by? It is created by you. Okay. Or it could be created by the customer themselves. Then you got to mention the scope change. So this may, a scope change may not apply, but you will have to explain what is the type of change. Is it a business change or need? Or is it part of schedule change, error correction, regulatory requirement, or let's say some scope change? Mostly it will be a scope change. Then you look at what is the priority of this particular change. A high, medium, low. What is the proposed change? Is there a workaround? When you say alternative, can it be fixed without actually coding? Right? Then you look at severity, explaining if we don't implement this change, will it impact our applications in any which way? So this is something that needs to be captured. Okay, so this is pretty formal, but it may not be exactly like this. So I will quickly show you something which is so if you look at, again, we are using this. Well, anyway, I hope you got the feel of it. So what you need to focus on is you will actually mention the requirement, which is a change. You will explain the purpose of the change, and you will explain the impact of the change. If that change is not implemented, what is the negative impact? You will also mention what is the positive impact of implementing this change. You will also then talk to your technical architect and put the number of hours there, or sometimes that is passed on to the PM. Project manager will take care of it. Your understanding is then to the same thing, you can add a process map or some wireframes as supporting information. A change request is to tell all the stakeholders that this new enhancement or scope change needs to be implemented because it is critical and it is valuable for the business. In order to explain that functionality more, you can add a process map as well as some wireframes also, along with some textual content. So this is the typical change request that will happen. And nowadays we are also creating Jira and other tickets. You may follow the same format. Also add those supporting documentation. Okay, so that is the change management part. So if you're part of L2, L3 process, this is what you'll be doing. So Salesforce service management, like I told you, I discussed earlier, this is for sales. This is service management. Salesforce service management is backend ticketing process. ServiceNow is again one of the leaders, leading products in the market for ticketing process. Next time you hear of about ServiceNow, it's basically Can I raise a ticket? Can I get my issues sorted out? You are raising tickets to your internal IT teams. Most of them may be using ServiceNow. Oracle also has such tools, basically managing workflows on how to route tickets, how to get the job done. It could have attachments, it could have reports. Also, you will see there will be a common inbox from which team members can go and pick tickets. Now, for example, we all are part of one team. There will be a single queue. So everybody has access to that inbox. Everybody can look at the different emails and pull tickets into our own bucket. So that way it will not be shown in the team bucket but our individual buckets, where we will work on those tickets and then close the tickets, a part of L2 team. So if we need support, we reach out to some technical teams, get their feedback or get solutions from them, update the ticket and then close the ticket. So this is the flow for L2, and L3 process is where it will be slightly more sophisticated. L2 is where you can deal with even access related is L1. Simple things like I cannot access, can you reset the password? Such things are done in L1. Slight functionality, etc., and creating bugs, etc., can be done in L2. L3 is where the actual coding, architectural changes, etc., happens in the L3 process. So as the level increases, this you move from L1 to L3. Okay, so this is the you need to be aware of this so that you will know where you fit in. Ultimately, the business is trying to provide value to customers. You need to understand where you're falling in this particular groups. If you're in L2 or L3, see, typically BAs will be in L2 or L3. So mostly you will be in L3, and sometimes you can work in L2 kind of teams also. L2 teams are mostly support teams. So if you're a part of L2, you will also have to do a little bit of technical business analysis. That is, you will have to get into the back end of the application, look at databases, download logs, figure out where the bug is, and run some queries based on the request from customers. Also, they will expect you to download some reports and send it to them. So these kind of things can be done by business analyst also. Okay, so what this actually does, gives you a complete understanding of how the application works backend. So you become an expert of sort with respect to the application. Okay, so it's a slightly techno-functional role in L2. In L3 process, it's typical business analysis. Because you will already have a solution architect who will focus on solutioning, etc., technically. So most of your time will go in trying to create requirements, etc., in an L3 process. So this is what we have done. So it's 10:49 now. Let's take a quick 10-minute break, come back at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, I will do the remaining part, which is talk about certifications. Then we'll talk about which BA groups you can join, how to kind of also improve your profile and visibility on LinkedIn, etc. So it's 10:50. Let's come back at 11 o'clock. Okay, so I'll pause the recording for now. Let's take a quick. So far, we looked at tools, etc. So I think this gave you a good understanding of the variety that's available for business analysts. And also lately, you will see that data analytics, AI and ML are some of the trending topics. You may also want to learn RPA. You also want to maybe pick up some knowledge on Python, right, or R language, which will help build better data models, etc. More importantly, for business analysts, if not becoming a data scientist, become a problem solver, wherein at least understand what are the different algorithms that can be used for solving certain problems. So as a business analyst, if you're given a problem of, say, let's say forecasting, you should know which kind of models to apply. There are multiple models. Okay, so there'll be clustering, classification. There are some structured, unstructured, some data which comes with labels, without labels. So, trying to pick up some courses on Udemy, Coursera, etc. on AIML will give you a good understanding of what are these different algorithms, etc. Typically, business analyst may not do a data scientist work, but should at least have a problem solver attitude to understand what algorithms will work for which kind of problems. So those are certain things you can pick up. These are the most trending areas. I think for the next 10 years, AI/ML is going to be big. So it's great to catch on the wave right now. Okay, so this is about the tools. Let me quickly also talk to you now about some of the bodies, business analysis bodies, some certifications that you can do. So if you're somebody who is very keen on, focusing and getting a certification on requirement management, I would suggest you do a certificate from IREB, which focuses, totally on requirement management. Certifications, IREB CPREFL, which is a foundations level course. All right. So this is a great course if you're trying to requirement management, how to write requirement management, etc. Well, actually, if you ask me, the number of people who actually do IREB are very few, because again, requirement management is, it's like writing poem, right? So everybody has their own style. Ultimately, if you're able to get to the point, it's the dodge. But if you ever think of doing a little intensive course on requirements, try to get an IREB certification. Okay, so right now what is hot in the market is basically your IIBA, which is International Institute for Business Analysis. So this is a Canadian-based group, based out of headquartered in Canada, but it is pretty pervasive now. When I started back in 2010, 2010 is when I was actually working at Mindtree. That's when I still remember the top management of IIBA had come down from Canada, trying to meet companies and talk more about business analysis. So right now they've made great inroads. You can do more than CBAP. I think there is ECBA, which is an entry-level certification. So if you're keen to understand the different knowledge areas of business analysis, this is a good certification. What it exposes you to is what are the different, how is business analysis structured? How do you look at different topics within business analysis? For example, let me make you aware that, as per Babok, there are different sections. It may have changed slightly right now because every 2 or 3 years, there's an update to the Babok version, which is the BA Business Analysis Book of Knowledge, which starts with business planning and monitoring. Business planning, and so they have not divided this into different knowledge areas. What are the different knowledge areas which the business analyst must focus on? For example, BA planning and monitoring is your initial stages of doing your due diligence, pre-sales work, etc., where you're deciding conduct stakeholder analysis, plan BA activities, BA communication, plan requirement management process. We would have done something in this line, especially while creating a requirement plan, and also doing some stakeholder analysis in terms of maybe creating a persona or even creating a RACI chart, okay, where you're trying to slot the different users into responsible, accountable, consulting and informed kind of situation. So this is where that activity happens. Elicitation is where the actual requirement is elicitation. Basically, you're talking to the customers to gather requirements. So prepare for elicitation, conduct elicitation, document the requirements, etc. So these are certain areas. Requirement management and communication. So they will talk about solution scope and requirement. You work with a technical architect, solution architect to come up with solution scope. Manage requirement traceability is again now done on the tool itself. Earlier, this was done on an Excel sheet, very intensive work while doing waterfall. Now traceability is anyway available if you are able to link and do a good job of managing the requirement management software like Jira or your TFS Azure. Okay, so then you have prepare requirement package, communicate requirements. How do you communicate requirements? One is you can notify through emails via Jira or TFS, or you can find separate meetings or separate forums where you can create new dashboards or PowerPoint presentations which you would like to share. So there is a different rituals followed by different teams. So as a business analyst, you have to figure out what works best for you. And that's part of communicating requirements to your stakeholders. That is a BA responsibility. Enterprise analysis is how do I understand what does the entire organization need? What are they trying to readjust? So can I work with the business architect? Can I work with the enterprise level architecture team in order to change the entire IT landscape of that particular company? So defining business needs, capability gaps, solution scope, then building a business case. The business case so that you can ask for investment, so that you can ask that you want to work on a project in order to solve these problems. So business case directly leads to either go or no go, leads to investment potential. It's basically a case that you're creating to say that there's a problem that exists and that there's a big because of this you're asking for funding. So you may get involved in the business case part of it. It could also be enterprise analysis, could also be part of pre-sales. Okay, so a lot of work is done. The requirement analysis is where you do your day-to-day tasks. That is prioritizing requirements using the Moscow method, which is should have, could have, so on. Also, you could use prioritization of requirements using the 2x2 process. That is the x-axis grid, that 4 grid method which I showed you. Okay, so there's another prioritization which is called as rice. Look up rice prioritization, which will tell you what is the basically potential of addressing a particular feature. So rice is another prioritization, very less used in the BA circles, mostly in the product management circles, but it is good to know. So prioritizing requirements, organizing, specify and model requirements, assumptions and constraints or dependencies and risks, verifying and validating requirements are all part of your day-to-day job as a business analyst. So BA does a good job of slotting them into different groups. What this exposes you to is what is this whole area of business analysis all about? They also talk with such zeal that a business analyst can become a CEO of the company. So that is their vision. So how can I think more broad? So that is where this particular certification and anything, any articles, any webinars that you do with IIBA gives you this kind of perspective. The solution assessment and validation is how do you assess proposed solutions? How do you allocate requirements? Validating solutions, defining transition requirements, and so on. So these are some of the areas which the IIBA talks about under the BA Book of Knowledge. So when you talk about knowledge areas under BA Book of Knowledge, these are the things. So this is pretty much what they will cover. Now switch back to IIBA. So here you can do ECBA. I think that's an entry level course. Also, when you sign, you have to sign up, get a membership. When you get a membership, your fee automatically they have designed. See, all these certifications are designed in such a way that they will ensure you buy the membership because there's a benefit. If you don't take a membership, the exam fee is pretty costly. If you take the membership, the exam fee is much lesser. So overall, you'll see a lot of benefit in getting the membership on iiba.org. You will also get to download a free copy of BABOK, which is Business Analysis Book of Knowledge. You can download free once you get the membership. Then you can also, go through all the free content that's available on IIBA. Let me quickly show you.
So this membership is for lifelong validity, or how is it, Prashant?
No, it is 1 year validity. It's pretty expensive. I think it comes at around 3,000, 4,000 rupees, but it's worth it. Like for example, first 1 or 2 years, one is membership, certification, and also there'll be a lot of events, etc. It is good. Individual member pricing. So again, it depends. Maybe you are in region 2 or region 3. That is $90 means it's about 5,000-6,000 now. Okay, but it's it because the value that you will reap from it is very good. What happens is you can also connect to IIBA chapter. Local IIBA chapter is a local group in Bangalore or in whichever place you're staying in, where they frequently connect, do webinars, talk about different topics. What it actually does is you actually feel belong to a particular group. Then you actually start sharing vibes. And when all of them start sharing a lot of information, you become a lot more comfortable and learn new things. So this is a great place. I would highly recommend it if you're really serious about business analysis. Get a membership for 1 or 2 years. Try to learn everything possible. Feel comfortable about it. Get a certification in the next 2 or 3 years, not immediately. I think it'll ask you for some sort of number of PDU points, etc. So look at that thing. So you need to qualify. So IIBA is a good membership. You can take it. Okay, so IIBA, I spoke to you about IREB. IREB is also good, but it's very less spoken about. IREB is one thing. So then similarly, just like IIBA, we have IIBA UK chapter. Surprisingly, in UK, BCS is the best certification you can do. BCS is a organization in UK. So UK recognizes business analyst certifications. If you do from BCS, it's highly recognized. Versus IIBA. IIBA UK chapter is recognized across the world. Okay, well known IIBA. BCS only in UK. Just trying to make you aware, so that if you are in, there are some BAs in UK. So I would recommend do BCS if you think you will continue to stay there. But IIBA is slowly gaining a lot of traction there also. So what did Project Management Institute do? So Project Management Institute is very popular for their PMP course, which is Project Management Professional. That's how it all started. So of the 25,000, 30,000 PMPs that pass out of the, get certificates in a year, about 18,000 people are from India. So you see the amount of, PMPs that are there in the market. At one point, right, before Agile happened, PMP was really, really hot. Everybody did PMP courses. And then when Agile hit the IT world, a lot of things changed. Automatically, we switched to Scrum. We started getting Agile certifications, etc. We started getting Agile certifications. Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. Can you repeat it, please? Your voice was cracking. Hello? Okay. So anyway, drop your question on the chat. I'll respond to it. So what PMI has come up with is, hey, we don't want to be left behind on business analysis also. So they started a course called PMI PBA. So this is also, I see a lot of professionals also doing PMI PBA, especially folks who understand and feel good, are very, very well connected with the Project Management Institute. What Project Management Institute does, it gives you a very good network on project management professionals. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this course if you are going to do an IIBA. An IIBA is a more well recognized and slotted area if you want to get a BA certification. If you do a PMI PBA, well, there is recognition, but most of them recognize IIBA over PMI PBA. It's a good to know. So PBA also does a good job. IREB we spoke about. Yeah, if you want to do a data management course, Dama, this is good. I think I'm sure there are a lot of new courses. This is pretty old, but you should focus on this. Okay, now I'm coming to the point where you can get, now if you're somebody who wants to scale really fast as a business analyst, wants to get credibility that yes, this person knows something, etc. I would suggest you do a certification called CSPO. Frankly, this course is good. It's a 2.5 day course where you understand the agile fundamentals. Sometimes you take the exam on the in the classroom itself, and then or sometimes you have to apply for a exam outside. But it is pretty easy to crack. So if you're somebody who's trying to get a quick certificate and trying to establish themselves as a business analyst who can work in an agile world, they are called as product owners. So doing a CSPO course, CSPO. There is also another certification in this space called as PSPO. PSPO offers lifetime certification. I think it's the same with CSPO, if I'm not wrong, or maybe it has a validity. This has a validity, but PSPO comes with a lifetime certification. But CSPO is something. See, if you're looking at 2-3 years as a target where you want to, establish credibility, I would definitely suggest go for CSPO. Somebody who wants to spend just about 2.5-3 days, get good amount of agile knowledge, and then start applying it on the go. CSPO is a good one to do. It's a little easy on your plate if you have too many things to do. PSP is also a good one. A lot of BAs also talk about PSPO. It is giving you lifetime certification. It also has an extensive exam that you have to take. So these two definitely I bet on. Try to take CSPO. If PSPO is something you want to do, definitely check out what works for you. These two are something is priority number one, because currently if you're a business analyst, you will work in an agile environment. Agile environment, you need product owners. See, product owners are people who can take decision on products. So these certifications actually confuse members that business analysts can become product owners. Product owner, basically BA working in an agile environment, they call as product owners. But product owners are people who can invest on the product, who can fund the product, who can also take decisions on the product. As a business analyst working in an agile environment, you will not have that much flexibility because it's a pretty senior role. But they still call them as product owners, which is okay. So definitely go for this certification if you are immediately wanting to gain confidence, etc. on agile. So do CSPO. Check out this one if this works for you. Then next certification you should aim for is, if you want to focus on business analysis as a career, focus on IIBA. Get an ECBA or a CBAP. CBAP is mostly for 10+ years of work experience. If you're somebody entry level, go for ECBA, which is ECBA. Okay, so this is the course. When you go to IIBA, you'll figure it out, get a membership. Automatically, all that information is available there. So focus on these two certifications. I think a lot of traction you will gain. Okay. Then, of course, there are some bodies like Scrum Alliance. Try to connect on the, see, when you do CSP, automatically you will get, you will get, associated with all this. CSPO is the Certified Scrum Product Owner offered by Scrum Alliance. So this is something like IABA, where there will be material, there will be coaching, certifications, communities there, resources are available. So a lot of information that you can actually go through. If you're a product owner, how do you explore it and things like that. So great space. Do Scrum Alliance, go IIBA and Scrum Alliance is 2 areas you should definitely focus and learn, get associated with this. Other than this, what are the different groups you can be part of? I would say try to subscribe to BA Times. BA Times does a good job of writing a lot of articles, also helps you attend webinars, etc. So some good content on business analysis comes from BA Times. Okay, so this is a very good. Then I think you have BA Forum. There was a. So there are other ones. The Modern Business Analyst is another area. So I told you about BA times. Modern business analyst is the other side that you should focus on. So these two gives you very good understanding of, or lot of information around business analysis. They even create, see, all these comic strips, etc. It gives you a glimpse into what is the life of a business analyst. What are the different business analysts? See, they have business analyst boot camp. Then they talk about product management, project to product, all these things. So it's a great space to explore. There will be different threads running all the time. So you can get into all these and figure out. Okay, so what else had to cover today? So I did tools. I spoke to you about certifications. I spoke to you about these particular groups. Now see on LinkedIn also, right? See, try to observe, BAs. Observe BAs. How do you look up BAs? Look up BAs. Seconds loading. So when you look up people, business analysts, you can also apply filter. If number of years of experience is there, it's not there. That's okay. So you will see connections, locations, current company. And this is fine. So when you start looking at business analyst thing, you'll automatically get an understanding of how these business analysts are positioning themselves. And there will be some really good BA influencers. Okay. For example, I will keep posting a lot of information on business analysis. I've been posting, I'll keep posting. So you can connect with me. You can connect with a lot of other people on business, LinkedIn. Change your, profile accordingly. Change whatever you have done as a QA or as a software engineer. Focus it around requirement management. Focus it around stakeholder management. Focus it around solution management. So that way you can slowly start positioning yourself as a business analysis professional. So as you go through these, spend extensive time trying to comb through LinkedIn profiles, understand what are the certifications. Let's say you're getting into healthcare, then look up healthcare business analyst. If you're getting into HRM, human resource business analyst, look at HRMS business analyst. So definitely they would have done some certificates which you are missing. If you want to scale in that industry, try to then understand what certifications are available for BFSI, for healthcare, for HRMS. So these are different areas. We'll have specific domain-based certifications. When you get those domain-based certifications also, it adds a lot of credibility to your existing profile. Now, suppose you want to spend extensive time in healthcare domain, get healthcare related certifications. Look at profiles which are healthcare BAs. So that is the way you start building your profile and positioning yourself nicely. Okay, so overall, this is pretty much what I wanted to give you as a glimpse into the entire BA world. I have nothing more to cover. I hope you were able to get a benefit out of all these sessions for the last 4 weekends, 16-hour course. So now I open the floor to your discussions, any questions you may have, and then we'll close for today. Okay, so this is my last session on business analysis. Happy to help you out at any point of time. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me on YouTube, subscribe. Also, let's connect whenever you need any help. Also share with your friends for good karma, right? So more people will benefit out of it. I didn't have many mentors when I started off as a BA. I'm more than happy to help you out to think in a certain way, also talk and discuss anything required. I've been helping out BAs, right? It's not like I'm only, so I've been helping BAs across the world. I also help them with their day-to-day, work. Like they come with their, kind of situations or problems saying, hey, I don't know how to create this process map. I'm struggling. I'm trying to create this requirement document. I'm not able to understand. So how do I write a use case, or how do I write this user story? How can I split this better? So those kind of things. So people come and reach out to me. So share my profile, share my, subscribe YouTube, share content. I'm going to make this available on YouTube. It's all free. So share for good karma. Okay. Any questions for me? Yeah, Nivedi.
No,
No?
no question. No question, Mr. Shashank. Thank you for all your support and guidance on these 4 weekends. Yeah, we'll
Thank
get
you.
connected
Thank you.
if at all any queries or anything which we need to discuss.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See, leave a feedback. Leave a feedback on that LinkedIn post earlier, which through which you connected. See if you can leave a feedback there, or on YouTube, or
Okay.
whatever. That will help. Also share with your friends in your community, anybody who will benefit from this. So that's something that
Sure.
will help.
Yeah. And one day you brought Praveen to our session, right?
Right.
Related to Agile.
Right.
Can I have his full name so that I'll get connected with him in LinkedIn as well?
Raveen, yeah, I'll share that with you. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
share that profile with you on LinkedIn.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Okay, folks. Thanks for patiently being on the calls. Thank you very much. I hope to continue conducting 1 or 2 day sessions like these in the future as well for business analysts. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.